Welcome to the Heal Your Hunger Show, where we get to the heart of why you overeat and how to stop. If you struggle with food and weight like I did, welcome home.
Welcome everybody to the Heal Your Hunger Show. So happy to have you here. It is a great day to be live, and I mean that with all my heart. This is fire season here in Los Angeles. And yesterday I was on the phone and I was sitting there. I'm at the top level of a condo, fourth level of a condo, but I have a great view of the Getty Museum and feel very blessed. I love the Getty. If you ever travel to LA, you've got to go see the Getty, the main Getty building. I mean, the other one, they've got two of them. One's in Malibu and it houses the Greek and Roman art, but the main Getty is all kinds of art, and it's stunning, positively stunning, a 360 degree view of Los Angeles. So don't miss that. So I was looking across at that, and it was nighttime and beautiful night, and I smelled smoke. My door was open and I smelled smoke, and I thought, that's not good. That is not good. And then it kind of went away. But sure enough, that started the fires that happened around the Getty this past 24 hours. So by the time you're listening to this, it might be, not just now, obviously later, but yeah, it happens quite a bit in this season in Los Angeles. And for friends and family who reached out to me, I was very grateful, but we were totally safe. And it was a lot of concrete between us and the whole, vast mountain range of dry land, unfortunately, very, very dry forestry and vegetation. So it's a great day to be alive. It's a great day to be alive. It's a great day to have your house be in one piece. There's always something to be grateful for, right? So I want to talk today about, if you're listening to this, well, just all I can say is go to the Secret Sauce group. That's where you get the most updated information, because I do webinars and I let people in the Secret Sauce group know about it first. So if you want to be in on the information, be in on the coolest stuff that we're doing here at Heal Your Hunger, definitely go to Facebook and go into the Secret Sauce to end emotional eating, and we'd love to have you. So today's topic is the 2 biggest decisions I've ever made in my life. This is, again, another personal post or podcast, and just off the cuff here, I haven't, I try to plan out my podcast to a degree, like a little bit, but in spite of my planning today, I just know it's just going to be shooting from the heart, from the hip and the heart. So, because I want to talk about literally the 2 biggest decisions of my life, and they both have to do with my husband. And so I want to share about this because cat's out of the bag. If you've listened before, I did separate from my beautiful, sweet husband, Roy, 7 months ago. And there's so much in here. There's so much I've been through that I want to share here, really, because it's just so germane to the topic of breaking free from emotional eating. When emotional eating doesn't just happen. We don't just happen to be struck with an insatiable urge to eat chocolate. As wonderful as chocolate is, and as yummy as it is, and it's meant to be, my compulsion to eat, my terrible destructive eating and the places I went with it, and the terrible self-destructive things I did to try to, compensate for my eating, like exercising and starving and crazy, pills and potions and gobs of money doing really bogus solutions that weren't going to work, or very, superficial surface physical things that weren't going to get to the real issues. I did a lot of that. And, I just really want to share about, how to really overcome emotional eating, because so much of what's out there doesn't work. And I don't want you to be trapped in that terrible cycle. And I know it's so tempting. Somebody said to me the other day, somebody who was enrolling in my program, she's like, I know diets don't work, but when I'm, feeling fat, it's like, I know diets don't work. I'll go deeper, but for right now, I'm going to do the diet. I'm going to do the diet just this one time. And we get caught and seduced into that terrible cycle of over and over and over again, dieting and blowing it and dieting and blowing it, right? Even though it's like, yeah. I know it's a deeper issue. Yeah. but I'll deal with it later. No, later never comes. Like, it's now. Your only time is now. So I want to talk about, some really important issues that have to do with emotional eating, and they happen to have something to do with my personal life, which is why I'm sharing them. I wouldn't share them if it weren't, very important to one's journey of overcoming emotional eating. And that's really why I decided to be public, if you will, about what Roy and I have been through, because it's not about the food. So we got to talk about what it's really about. And I want to go back first and tell you about the first decision that was the most impactful decision of my life. And that was to decide to stop chasing things that weren't working for me to overcome emotional eating. I hit bottom. I had actually lost a bunch of weight, and I'd done so many things. I mean, of course, diets and exercise programs and, all different kinds of supplements, and, could create self-help books. And I went a little deeper psychologically, self-help books, 12-step programs, therapy, eating disorders therapy. I'd done a lot of things. And on this journey, I just began to see like nothing's really tapping into the root problem, because I'm just continuing to go up and down the scale. So at this particular point, I'd been on a weight loss run, for about 9 months. I was doing, quote, good. We love the words good and bad when it comes to eating. So I was doing good, eating clean, and had lost a bunch of weight and felt great. Unfortunately, it was a physical plan. It was about the food plan. It was about, weighing and measuring my food. And it was about, the weight loss, even though, what I was doing paid lip service to, spirituality and other things. There was so much focus on the food, and I was there too. And it's exciting to lose weight. I mean, who are we kidding? It was amazing to be losing weight, but unfortunately, weight was a symptom of what I was really suffering from. So what I was suffering from was rearing its ugly head as I lost weight. Now, losing weight is such a euphoric experience that at first you don't notice that stuff. First, you're just like, oh, I feel so good. It feels so good to lose weight. I'm feeling better. I'm looking better. People are looking at me. People are commenting. I love the ego hits I get from people noticing. But then that wears off. People kind of move on, and they're not noticing anymore. And, for me, in that 9-month period that I was losing, I was having that stuff come up. So I was treating it with other addictions. So I was like chasing boys, and young men. And I was, I was dating, I was obsessing about men. I was jumping in and out of relationships with guys because I couldn't stand intimacy. So I'd get in a relationship and be like, ooh, it's a little too close for comfort. And I'd move on. Like, I love the chase. I didn't love being in it, but long-term, I love the chase and the hits. I was looking to fill a void inside. So I was replacing the food that I was no longer eating with other addictive things. Shopping, when you lose weight, you want to go buy clothes. So I was buying tons of clothes. And, I was just on this cycle of feeding myself in whatever way I could, or stuffing myself, really is what it was, with alternative, substances and activities that would distract me from the stuff I was burying with food. Okay. So that's the bottom line, is that, weight loss brings in euphoria at first, but if you're not going deeper, if you're just focused on weight loss, you're in for like a rocky road. Okay. Because that stuff is going to come up to the surface. And it did with me. And I got to the point where I had a ton of clothes. I had male suitors, and people I was chasing. And I had a lot of attention. I had a lot going on in my life. I became social, I all of a sudden had a social life because I wasn't sitting around binging. But then, that stuff that was there that drove me in the first place to eat started bubbling up, and I could not deny it. I could not leave it, be. I couldn't leave it. It couldn't leave me alone. And I started to have cravings to eat again. And I'm telling you, I was like really I've been through this so many times. I've been up and down the scale so many times. I am screwed. And that is true. I was screwed. I tried so many different things. Like if I kept going the way I was going, trying the same types of stuff, that was going to be my life. And I knew it. I was destined to be a roller coaster, yo-yo dieter for the rest of my life, and to be perpetually unhappy with my weight, and with, and struggle with food, and be clean and then break out, be clean and break out, binge and be restricted. I mean, over and over. And I'm like, I can't do that for the rest of my life. That's hell. That's a living hell. And thank God I realized that at a very young age. So blessed. I feel like God was really like, girl, let's get this, and let's get this good. Like you need a new way. So what happened is, when I did realize this is not going to be I cannot do this the rest of my life. I did meet somebody who was able to show me, a totally new way, a totally alternative way of dealing with this problem, which meant going deeper and dealing with the underlying causes. And that completely changed my life, That person is the person I ended up marrying, Roy. What happened was he was able to help me. It was a magical and wonderful experience for me, because I got off of the merry-go-round. I got off the merry-go-round, and I started to heal at a deeper level. And he was so loving and compassionate, and he mentored people, to heal from all kinds of addictions. But for me, it was food. It's something he had. So he had overcome it himself. And that's why he was able to help me. You can't get help from somebody who hasn't overcome this problem, had it and overcome it, in my experience. So he had it and had overcome it. He'd been morbidly obese. So he was able to help me. And the biggest decision in my life was to go for that help. Okay. Because it was alternative at the time. And because I spent a lot of time with this guy. And so that didn't look so good, for people. I mean, it wasn't a sexual relationship. He was my mentor. But I'm telling you, I had hooked my little wagon up to his, because I loved his spirituality and what he could offer me in terms of deeper healing. And so I hooked my little wagon to his. I went wherever he went. I wanted to hear him speak. I wanted to, just hear his words of wisdom. And that was a really big decision for me, because I was in a fork in the road, and instead of doing what I always did, I did something totally different. The stuff I always did is, as much as it didn't work, it was known, right? It was known, and it was, conventional diet and exercise and therapy and 12-step programs and that kind of thing. It's like the usual, right? And I diverted from that path, and I did something totally total renegade. I totally went off the reservation, and I did something totally different, which was get spiritual, this whole spiritual healing path, which, I mean, now might not be so, off the reservation, but we're talking 31 years ago. And I was hanging out with this guy who was a lot older than me, a couple decades older than me. So my family's like, what are you doing? And they didn't understand. And I'm telling you, the reason why it was the biggest decision of my life is because I followed my heart. I finally followed my heart for the first time ever. I had spent my lifetime listening to other people, following what other people were doing. If you do what the masses do, you get what the masses got. And that's what I was getting. I was doing the diets and the exercise and the 12-step and this, that, and the other. Not that there's anything wrong with those things, but they weren't working for me, and I had to own up to that. I could have kept doing that for another 30 years. I could have. And most people do. My clients come to me and, oftentimes in their 50s and 60s and 70s, they've been doing that for a long, long time. And I just am, and I'm trying to save them from doing it anymore, and so I just really, I really took a different path. I totally went rogue, and it was so hard because I was such a people pleaser. Both my sisters were in 12-step programs, and they were doing the weighing and measuring thing. And it's like, I took a different path. And And for the first time in my life, I was listening to my soul. Like I was listening to God inside of me. And it was so powerful. And that's really what I wanted to share this today, is that God is inside of you, that divine spirit, that still small voice. Have you ever had a time where you just knew what the right path was, even if it didn't look like what you thought it should look like? Have you ever had that experience where you just know in your heart of your hearts what the right thing is to do, and it's not the usual thing? It's not what everybody else is doing. I hope you've had that experience, because it's powerful, and you follow it, and then it works out. My friends, that's what recovery is about. Recovery is about listening, is first of all getting clear, and that takes addressing your food stuff, because guess what? When we're eating sugar and carbs, and all the crap, we can't hear that still small voice. And that's why we eat, is because we're trying to bury the truth. Like God is speaking to us all the time, speaking through us all the time. I don't believe God is some bearded man in the sky, but God is that still small voice. And it doesn't matter what you call it. The word God, gets you feeling hung up. Don't worry about it. It's just a word. It's totally insufficient to describe what I'm talking about anyway. That beautiful inspiration, that beautiful just gut, people call it a gut feeling, guidance, whatever you want to call it. It is alive and well inside of you, but you are smushing it down with food and crap and people pleasing and, just running around doing things you don't even want to do. The expression, I spent money I didn't have to buy things I didn't want to impress people I didn't like. That was my life. That's what I was doing in my life. And chances are you are too, if you haven't, taken this new path. And so it was such a powerful time for me, because I did not listen to anybody but that voice inside of me. I did not listen to anybody. I just felt like I had an opportunity here to heal and to have a new experience. And I'm a risk taker. So it felt risky to me, because I wasn't doing the usual stuff and, in the programs I was in. And I just was like, I was going rogue, and it was awesome. It was so awesome. And again, this is back then. It wouldn't be rogue now, but then it was to a degree. The people I knew me were like, "What are you doing? Like, that's kind of weird," And I'm like, "Nope, I'm following my heart, and it feels good." And I'm telling you, that's what I want for you. I want you to get clear. First of all, I want you to get healing from overeating, so you can hear that still small voice inside. And then I want you to follow that. Whatever the situation is, you can start small. Start with something. Just even what you want for breakfast. I mean, remember Julia Roberts and the role she had in Runaway Bride? She didn't know what kind of eggs she liked. She had to finally cook poached eggs and scrambled eggs and eggs Benedict and, fried eggs. She had to cook all different kinds of eggs and taste each one and find out what is me, what is right for me. And at that time in my life, 31 years ago, I'm like, this is my path. This feels good in my heart. And boy, oh boy, your heart will never lie. Your heart will never lie. That is that still small voice. That is God. That is that divine spirit, is when it feels right. There's no tension or chaos or scrambled thoughts. It's like peace, like just peace. And I followed that. So that was the first big decision of my life. And it worked out, right? I mean, I was able to, lose the rest of the weight and keep it off. And I was able to live in freedom in my life. Then, I joined Roy in helping other people, and we were on this amazing path. We haven't been for years. Beautiful, beautiful path. I've seen so many people heal from addictions, lose the weight and keep it off. And it's been amazing. The second biggest decision of my life has been in separating from my husband. And it's so weird that the best decision of my life, the first one was really joining with my husband, and we just joined, the romance thing and all that, the marriage, all that came later. Our mission was number one in our lives. So it was more of convenience that we would be together in all ways, because we were together all the time. And very sweet, loving relationship. He's such a sweet soul, and we have a depth of love. We are soulmates to the end, no question, for eternity. And so it was very right, for many years our being together. And we're still very close. If you're in the Secret Sauce group, you see my updates. He just had hip surgery and, and came through that with flying colors, thank God. And I've been taking care of him and putting on his compression socks and, that kind of thing. But anyway, the second biggest decision in my life was leaving that relationship. And so I just want to share about that and just say it came from the same place. What I always realized and observed about relationships that ended is that they don't just end, right? They don't just end. Like there's a lot of rockiness before. Nobody just ups and leaves a relationship. They try to make it work. They try to make it work. They try lots of different things. And of course, that was our story as well, mostly on my part. I mean, Roy was always just happy being with me, and I'm grateful for that. But for me, because I've grown and changed in so many ways, that divine discontent began to grow in me over the past several years. And I've tried many things to kind of mitigate that. And ultimately, I had to follow my heart, okay, and make this move. And it came from my heart, it didn't come from my head. My head was like, let's make this work, you're in it to win it, you're married, follow those vows, and he's older than me, see it through and this kind of thing. And yet my heart started to really make noise. And it felt like the hardest decision of my life, apart from the first one I made, which was the hardest decision of my life at the time, to go against what, other people might think is the right way to go or the right path. I did exactly what my heart was guiding me to do. And it was life-changing. And I broke out of fear, I always listen to fear. I listen to other people's fear. I see a lot of my clients do that, or people who want so much to be free from emotional eating. And I talk to them and then, I don't do what I do for free. I have to pay the bills. So when it comes to paying money to break free, they're like, I just can't do it, and it breaks my heart because they're spending so much money on being sick, with the health issues and the, bogus things that they're trying that are never going to work and don't work. And they've proven not to work, and all the escape mechanisms that they're involved in, and the self-hatred and the missing out on life and appointments and hanging out with friends and trips. And, there's a big price to pay for staying in the hell of emotional eating. So when they're not willing to spend money on themselves and invest in themselves by, enrolling in a very proven system. I mean, what I love about what I do is I have a very proven system that will help a person break free from emotional eating. And it works every time. So I'm sitting there offering that, but I see, people holding back and playing small and listening to the fear of other people. They'll be like, I want to check with my husband or my sister or something else. And, parents, whatever. And I totally get there. And there's no judgment on that. But it's motivated 9 times out of 10 really by fear. And I get that fear. It's fear of change. It's fear of breaking out. We get used to our misery. Our misery is very comfortable. And so people are afraid of breaking out. What would freedom look like or feel like? They don't even know. They don't even have a concept or they don't have verbiage for that, So I see that. And also, of course, the biggest fear of anybody I talk to is, will it work for me? Because they've tried so many things and it has failed. So I get that fear too. And the answer is yes, absolutely. Because it's a different path. This is going rogue, dealing with the underlying causes and like I don't teach people what to eat because I know the people who are attracted to my work, they know what to eat. They've read the books. They go to write the books. They know what to eat. It's not, you're not lacking in knowledge about nutrition. You're not lacking in knowledge of what makes you fat, what makes you, thin. That's not, you're not stupid. My clients are very intelligent women, very intelligent women. So they're not stupid, but they can't follow through on what they know and all the research they've done, all the podcasts they listen to, and they're consumers. They consume a lot of podcasts, a lot of information, a lot of summits, all this stuff. Just consume thinking the more information they have, the better off they'll be. And it's not true, because what they lack is the ability to follow through on what they know. That is the kicker. That's why they're not getting results. It's not lack of knowledge, I promise. So just so important, that we follow that inner voice and go rogue, absolutely. So this decision to separate from my husband, I know I go on a little tangent there. It was the next hardest thing that I've ever done. I mean, in the moment, it's the hardest thing ever. And especially because there weren't terrible things about my relationship with Roy. It's, I'm so grateful for it and for, our continued friendship. And it was, I just didn't think I could do it. And you've probably heard me share that before. I just didn't think I could do it. But, there's a saying, God won't take you to it without taking you through it, or if God takes you to it, he'll take you through it. And that's what happened to me. Is I knew what I had to do. I knew I could feel it in my heart. There was a day when I thought, it's what I have to do. Like, I can't turn back. And not that I didn't wobble a bit, and we had our discussions and talked it through. But, ultimately it's like I knew, and I followed that knowing, and hardest thing I've ever done. But I'm sharing about this again for the same reason as I shared about my first decision. I had to follow my heart. Like, my recovery and my freedom, my continued freedom, depended on my following my divine guidance, and my getting more aligned with who God means for me to be in this world, and has made me to be, and is inspiring me to be. I had to follow it. I could not squelch it anymore. I could not I had no more workarounds. I had to walk through that fire, and I know you've got situations in your life right now like that, not necessarily a relationship, or it may be, but it not necessarily. It could be a job, that you're suffering in right now. It could be some other kind of relationship, not necessarily romantic. I mean, it could be the fact that you just keep trying the same old with regard to weight loss. You keep chasing your tail and doing the same thing over and over with the same bad results, So I'm just here to say that if you follow your heart will never lie. Okay. This is the hardest decision of my life. And yet it's worked out, it's worked out because I've trusted. I listened, I thankfully didn't overeat, and I kept hearing that voice. And then I followed that voice, and I've taken one foot, put one foot in front of the other, and it's worked out. And I feel very guided, very protected. Do I get afraid? Of course I get afraid. Do I, have I had doubts? Honestly, not a whole lot. Like, when I knew, when I really knew in my heart of hearts, I really haven't had a whole lot of doubts. Of course, a few wobbly moments, but when you know, and when you follow what you know, the path is smooth. The path is smooth. It doesn't mean it's easy. It's not easy, but it is, without drama, without angst, and that's been my experience. So anyway, I don't want to belabor the point, but I just am here to stand for you standing for you. I'm here to just let you know, when you listen to that still small voice inside, when you get aligned, when you take that scary step that you need to take, man, like, the red carpet will roll out for you, and it'll work out. I've seen it with my clients who have invested in themselves and going through my program. Like, that's a scary move, and yet they don't regret it. Like, they don't regret it, and it's paying off for them. So, whatever your scary move is, I encourage you to take it. And it's, beyond that fear, beyond that fearful step, is a whole new world of joy and peace and serenity and health and wholeness and self-love, true self-love. So yeah, I'm standing for you. Thanks so much. Love you so much. Thanks for tuning in today. And I'll talk to you another time, actually on the next show or in the Secret Sauce group. I hope you touch base in there and share on this post. Okay. Love you.
If you enjoyed this podcast and want to get free support, insider health info, exclusive invites to events, and more, visit healyourhunger.com.